frequency. Some people can hear high pitches better, some people can hear low pitches better. This you can customize to whatever frequency you can hear the best. And you have over 200 different options to choose from there. And we'll go down to the next option, which is audio disc. Audio disc actually turns your discriminator either on or off. If you turn your audio discriminator off, then you're going to hear every metal that's in the ground. So you'll get a signal on all metals. And the way you would do that would be to hit enter, and you notice that the little arrow goes into the off box, and now you're in the all metal mode hearing all signals. Push enter again, it turns it back on again, and I'll go down to the next option, which is silent search. Silent search allows you to turn off the threshold and just run in a silent mode, and you will only hear a sound when you go across the metal object. That's a personal preference. I personally like to hear a threshold. It lets me know when I've discriminated against something because the threshold will go away momentarily. But other people prefer to hear no sound at all. So that's your choice. If we go down to the next option, which is mixed mode. Mixed mode is a very useful option for Civil War relic hunting. The detector is actually running in the all metal non-motion mode and the motion discriminant mode at the same time. It will make a low sound, a low pitched sound when it's something that the discriminator is rejecting, and it will make a high pitch sound when it's something that the discriminator is accepting. Remember that you have to keep the detector in motion in order for the high pitch to come in. If you go too slow or if you stop, the motion discrimination part of the option will not work. So you have to keep the detector moving to check a signal. If you go down to the next option, which is AC sensitivity, AC sensitivity actually turns up the amount of gain that you're putting into the ground. In other words, the amount of power that you're putting into the ground, it will increase or decrease that, whichever you choose. So if you actually want to make your detector go a little deeper, one of the first things you'll want to adjust will be your AC sensitivity. If you increase this setting, you'll actually go a little deeper into the ground. There's also reasons why you might want to lower your sensitivity. If you were getting interference from electrical noise or other metal detectors that are in the area, you can lower your sensitivity and the detector will stabilize and work smoother and quieter for you. It's very important to keep your detector stable at all times so that you can tell when you have a good target. If it's too noisy, you may miss something. If we go down to the next option, you have DC sensitivity. DC sensitivity actually turns the detector up when it is in the pinpoint mode. So if you need more depth or more sensitivity when you're in the pinpoint mode, you can turn that up and it will actually reach farther into the ground. Not too many cases where you want to do that. Usually the DC sensitivity is matched already to the AC sensitivity in the factory preset programs, and you probably won't need to change that very often. If you go down to the next option, which is backlight, backlight actually turns on the backlit of the LCD screen so that in low lit areas in the evening or early in the morning, you can turn the screen on, it will light up, and you can see it very easily. There's no need to have the backlight on when you're in normal sunlight because you really get no benefit from it being on, and it only runs your battery down a little bit faster. So only use the backlight when you're in a low light condition. The next feature you have is viewing angle. Viewing angle actually tilts the pixels in the screen. You'll notice that sometimes if you got into a really, really cold climate, the screen may try to lighten up a little bit on you, or if you got into a really hot climate, the screen may become a little bit dark on you. So you can go in and actually adjust those pixels and bring the screen back into normal setting regardless of the ambient temperatures. This screen, however, is very resistant and will pretty much stay the same regardless to the temperature changes. It's pretty user-friendly. If you're willing to go out there and hunt under most conditions, the screen should work for you just fine. That's a list of all the basic adjustments. You'll have them already preset in the factory programs, but you may from time to time want to make your own adjustments.
To get the most out of any tool or device, you really need to understand what makes it tick. Now, have no fear, we're not going to bombard you with tech speak, but I know that once you hear Randy's explanation, with some assistance from DFX engineer Mark Rowan, you're going to be able to maximize the DFX to your hunting preference and therefore find more treasure.
There are 5 sections in the Pro options. The first I'm going to cover is the audio section, but here's Mark Rowan to give you a brief summary of how it works.
The audio system in the DFX is entirely digitally synthesized, and it's what makes possible the kind of features that we have available here. The audio can be both amplitude and frequency modulated by the microprocessor. The amplitude can be controlled over a very wide dynamic range, about 63 decibels, which makes it possible to go all the way from a whisper up to a very loud sound that you can hear over a lot of background. The frequency is adjustable in 256 individual steps, which makes possible things like VCO and tone ID, and also allows the operator to fine-tune the threshold frequency to his or her liking. And again, all this is very tightly crystal controlled by the microprocessor and is very accurate.
Okay, now I'm going to break all the individual adjustments down that are in the audio section. So we enter into the audio section and we have Ratchet pinpointing. This is turned on in the factory preset program. What Ratchet pinpointing does is every time when you have the pinpoint trigger pulled, every time you cross over the target, it's going to try to shrink the target down to where you get a narrower and narrower pinpoint each time you go across the target. So it kind of helps you, it's like a pinpointing aid. It'll help you to be a little bit more precise in your pinpointing. If you turn Ratchet pinpointing off, then it's going to give you the true size of the target every time you cross it, and it's not going to try to shrink it every time you cross it. If you go down to the next option, it's SAT speed. SAT stands for self-adjusting threshold. And remember, the threshold is that hum you hear while you're detecting, and the SAT speed feature adjusts how fast the detector tunes to make that threshold stay steady. You may need a faster SAT speed if you're in highly mineralized ground, but for the most part, the factory preset will work good in most areas. The next option is Tone ID. Tone ID allows the detector to make a high pitch on different targets. It'll make a very high pitch on a dollar, a little bit lower pitch on a quarter, a little bit lower pitch yet on a dime, and even a lower pitch on a nickel. So basically it's there to help you to decide what the target is just by listening rather than consulting the meter. That's a personal preference, whether you like the sound or not. It's one of those things that you can experiment with and see how you like it. The next feature is VCO, which stands for Voltage Controlled Oscillation, and this is one of my favorite features. I use this one every time I use the detector. What it does is it gives you, when you turn this on, it gives you a high pitch when you're in the pinpoint mode when you are directly over the target. As you move off of the target, the pitch lowers back down. So it gives you a real precise pinpoint as to where the target is, and it speeds up the pinpointing process by a lot. If you go to the next option, which is modulation, modulation turned on in the factory preset program, it will make the detector make a softer sound as you go across a deeper target, and it will make a louder sound if the target is shallow. If you turn modulation off, then it will try to give the same loud tone all the way down to as deep as the detector can detect. Again, this is a personal preference. I like to hear modulation. I liked it to make that little whisper sound